Let's bring in now, get some reaction immediately from energy expert David Lipschitz. David, thank you very much for your patience and thank you for connecting earlier, listening in a little bit to what the minister had to say and some of the questions and answers. What stands out from you from this new board?
You know, it's very difficult to ascertain exactly if this is the right board or not. With such short notice. I've been looking through some of the CVs of some of the people. As you said, Mr. Makwana has been the chairman before. I'm just looking on another screen here. And but it looks like he's on 10 boards at the moment. So, you know, Eskom needs dedicated people that are full-time employed, not just in executive, such as the CEO, the CFO, the COO, and so on, who are working full-time in Eskom, but they need a chairperson who is a full-time person. This man you're showing now, he should be working full-time in Eskom. He's on the board. He's the chairperson of Nedbank. He's on at least 10 boards. He's on the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund board. These are all fantastic things, but you know, as I've said so many times, it's not the number of people that Eskom can employ. It's the number of people that can be employed because of what Eskom does. You know, Eskom, we've heard that potentially 300,000 coal miners' jobs are at stake in the new transition, you know. But, you know, we need 60 million jobs. 60 million people are dependent on electricity. It's got to be our primary focus to get these power stations running. Yes, I mean, I think that having too many CAs on the board is unnecessary. I think that the financial people can deal with the financial issues. We need to have much more engineers, much more people. I've been trying to engage with Eskom directly since 2004 when I realized there was going to be a crisis, from the government's own, you know, white papers in 1998 and 2003, and then later on other work that they've done.
Yeah,
so
we have.
I think there's a lot of work.
Yeah, I get your point about Mpho Makwana because he's also the chairperson of ArcelorMittal currently, in addition to being a lead independent director of the Nedbank Group. But I see there's several engineers. Mr. Lwazi Goqwana is said to be an engineer by profession. I'm just looking at the list here very quickly, David. I see that we've got Clive Leroux, the chief nuclear officer. We have Mr. Mteto Nyati, who turned around Altron, is a mechanical engineer. And then we've got, I'm just looking for another engineer here. I think there are 3 engineers, but the rest, of course, there's a lawyer and there's people who are specialists in change management. There's one person for that. And then, of course, there's a chartered accountant, as you say. So it's like a number of different skills that are being brought onto the board. So now the question is, you know, can the Eskom leadership, Mr. De Ruyter, who's on the board and on the executive committee, you know, can they engage with the board to ask the board for help and support, as a board should do for any business when representing the shareholders, which is the government and by extension all the taxpayers and people that buy electricity in this country. You know, my questions are, did the previous board fail? If they failed, how did they fail? How are we going to make sure that the new board doesn't fail? Is all the advice that the board gives, is it all taken with, you know, there's responsibility without authority. So you can be given responsibility for a massive job and then not be given the authority to carry it out. That's what Machiavelli said, and that causes massive failure. So my question is, that we do need new people, we do need new capability, we do need new, but you know, we also need to go back to the basics of, we've got an emergency. How much interaction is there with 27,000 people who can supply the grid with electricity 24 hours a day? How much, I hear that we've got a hospital near us, a private hospital. I hear their generator going almost all day. Load shedding, no load shedding. Which means that Eskom are paying them to run their generator. This is something that Eskom does with its big users that have 1 megawatt or bigger generators. But what about someone like me with a 10 kilowatt generator? Why am I not being employed to supply the grid at 7 p.m., which I can do? So we're not really looking at the big picture. we're talking about a lot of things. We're not really focused on what is the critical blockage. We know that Medupi and Kusile are not meeting the environmental regulations. Mr. Doreta said this himself this week. Technically, they're unlicensed. They should never have come on stream. Eskom have known since 2010 that they should have done the retrofitting of all the existing power stations, and that was meant to be done by 2015. So all of these things, it's like as if we suddenly woke up to all these problems, but we've known about them since at least 2003. So there's no excuse for these things. People need to be hauled over the coals and be made to account. The Zondo Commission have done a great thing with regard to corruption, but where's the Commission looking into the failure of state-owned enterprises?
Yeah. So just to the board, I mean, I think it was a difficult task. You just mentioned the Zondo Commission. You need good governance as well. Plus, of course, we need the electricity. That's not an argument. I mean, we all agree we need the power. When we switch on, we must not be having any stage of anything. We must get the electricity. That's a given. But I look at the board just quickly, David, while I have your time here for your insights. The board, you need governance, and Mpho Makwana is known for that. I mean, he's done a lot in terms of good governance, and he's sort of known. Maybe that's what they are trying to bring back into Eskom. Then you have a balance of those other skills, including, I think it's about 4 or so. I couldn't count properly quickly. I don't have all the CVs with me of the various directors. There is a balance there. You've got some engineers, different areas, including somebody about innovation, somebody in the nuclear field. But you also have people who've specialized, got experience, real lived experience in big organizations of turning them around. Somebody like Mteto Unyati, for example. I'm just using him as an example, how he turned around Altron. So maybe it was just that challenge for now to go forward to say, what kind of people do we need around that table? And you make a fair point. They should always be available to Doreta and his executive team.
Exactly. And, Mr. Pravin Gordhan, he spoke about standards. He said, why should we have a standard at 40% when the standard should be 75%? But a power station should be running at 92% efficiency. So the standard should be 92%. If we achieve 75% by the end of the year or the middle of next year, we would have done a major achievement. But that's not where it ends.
Yeah.
We need Eskom to be performing 100% all the time. 100% for a power station is 92% uptime, because you need to have downtime for repairs, maintenance, and so on. But we shouldn't have a situation where the whole of Kusile or Medupi or Camden or the other power stations, the whole power station's off. If there's 6 units, or 8 units, only one should maybe be off at a time, not all of them. So there's all of this stuff that needs to be done. Plus, turning around Altron, turning around other organizations, it's a long-term challenge, but there's short-term things, interventions that need to happen. We have the policy, we have the strategy, we know what needs to be done, but it's still not being done. And I just want to ask Mr. Gordhan and the board, when are you going to take the bull by the horns and say, we need to implement the things we promised to do? Let's just go and implement those things. That's actually all we need to do. Go and look at the white papers, go look at the strategy documents, and just implement those things. If the board can make that implementation happen, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah, you're right, David. We're going to have to wait and see what this new board will bring. But thank you for your time. I know we caught you a little bit off guard there, and you didn't have enough time to analyze everything. But we appreciate your insights. That David Lipschitz there, giving us some of his initial reaction to the new board.